Hey everybody and welcome back, this is Giancarlo and today we're going to take a look into the dairy industry and how the dairy industry is the worst of them all. But just before we get started, I just wanted to give you a bit of a heads up to say that there will be some content which might be a little bit uncomfortable to watch, but please bear with me because I think there's going to be some good stuff in here. Let's get into it. Most people when cutting down animal products making that transition tend to leave dairy to one of the last. They sort of say, I think I'll just cut out the meat first and then see how I feel after that. The problem is, within the dairy industry, cows are still exploited and slaughtered when you buy milk. The same way when you buy eggs, because the male chicks can't produce eggs, they have no use for the egg industry and are therefore gassed or macerated to death by the billions each year. So if you're wondering why is milk so bad, it just comes naturally from a cow. Let me briefly take you through the steps of how that yogurt, cheese or milk in your cereal has come at the expense of horrific animal exploitation and slaughter. Everyone should know by now that in order for a cow to produce milk, it has to be pregnant or have just given birth. It's crazy how many people I speak to who still don't know this. There isn't like this infinite amount of milk that comes out of the cow naturally for the farmer to come and take away from them. They have to be pregnant, and how this happens is through artificial insemination or AI. But just before we get stuck into this, we are missing something quite vital here. In order for AI to take place, we need bull semen for insemination, and how bull semen is collected is mainly through two ways. A bull is used to mount the cow, whereby the handler uses an artificial vagina to use as a replacement to then collect the semen. Or it's done by electroejaculation, whereby a dildo is shoved into the bull's rectum to then have electricity pass through the nerves to stimulate an orgasm for the handler to collect the semen. Now, once we have the bull semen, it has to be injected into the cow, and how this works is by using a long rod, or otherwise known as an artificial insemination gun, into the cow. Obviously, the cow isn't just going to let this farmer insert this rod, so they put her into a rape rack, or otherwise known as a cattle crush, to stop her from moving. The handler is going to have a lubricated glove on as he or she inserts her hand into the cow, meanwhile pushing out any excess poo which is in there to then finally catch and hold the cervix. The handler then inserts the rod through the cervix and into the vagina to then deposit the semen. As you can imagine, this won't be a pleasant experience for the cow, very far from it actually. Let's just put this into a human context for a second. Let's say we put a woman into a rack so she can't move and then forcibly impregnate her without her consent. We start to see how wrong this is if we look at it from the cow's perspective. When the cow gives birth, which is of course very painful, if they're a male calf, because they can't produce milk, they have no use for the dairy industry, so they're either kept, reared and slaughtered for veal, or shortly after birth they are shot dead and disposed of as waste. Some places do say that shooting the calf is cheaper than rearing him. If they're a female calf, they are separated from her mother usually within 12 hours to 2 days after giving birth and taken to individual stalls or hutches. As you can imagine, this would be a very traumatic experience both for the mother cow and also for the baby calf. So why are they separated? Well, because if they're not separated, then the baby calf is going to drink all of the mother's milk, which is obviously what she is supposed to do, which is going to mean that the farmer is going to lose profit. So why is dairy the worst? Not only do we sexually abuse cows by forcibly impregnating them 3 to 5 times in their lifetime, enslave and exploit. When they are no longer fit for production, we send them off to the slaughterhouse at the age of 5, 15 years off their life expectancy. Is this just factory farming, you may ask? In the UK, besides the industry making up to about 70% of the industry itself, unfortunately it still does. Let's just say you have given your money to your local butcher Barry, and Barry's cows are very well kept. They have acres and acres of land, grass-fed, and live a happy life. Barry's cows are still going to have to be forcibly impregnated year after year, still have their children taken away from them, and still be slaughtered at the age of 5. Does this supposedly happy life, which doesn't happen anyway, warrant the slaughter of this happy cow? Absolutely not. Locally sourced, grass-fed, free-range, organic, hormone-free, humane slaughter, high welfare standards are all perfect advertisement for guilty-free shopping. The dairy industry spends millions and millions of pounds each year to promote themselves, targeting schools and children to enhance their name. Advertising is effective, it's why they do it. It just sounds better. It feels better for a customer to know that when they go into a supermarket and buy a carton of milk, that they are receiving the highest welfare standards in the UK. It's like going to, Sainsbury's in your local corner shop. But if we really take a look into the high welfare standards, what we start to see is that factory farms would be the cow in confined spaces, most supermarkets by the way, fed largely GMO soy, wheat and corn, still be forcibly impregnated, still have their children taken away from them, and still be slaughtered at the age of 5. Organic, sustainably sourced, would be a grass-fed cow having more space than the factory-farmed cow, still be forcibly impregnated, still have their children taken away from them, and still be slaughtered at the age of 5. The only reason why we have millions of cows all across the world is because we are breeding them into existence by the millions. And the reason why we are breathing them into existence by the millions is because we as consumers still fuel these horrific industries. If we stop buying these products, these industries no longer will have a place in our food system. The animal agricultural industries will stop asking the governments for endless amount of tax subsidies to keep them afloat. In fact, only a few months ago, the government handed out £500,000 of taxpayers' money to dairy industry ads, trying to help them push sales due to their massive shortage of demand. Also, with help from dairy friends such as Dairy UK, AHBD and DEFRA, the dairy industry received a total of £1 million to launch their new campaign, Milk Your Moments. It's such a pity, isn't it? Because the sales of your exploited milk have plummeted so much, even before COVID-19 hit, and the sales of plant-based milks have skyrocketed so much, you have to look for help from the government so you can keep exploiting innocent animals so you can give cow pus to the public. If we just quickly take a look into the environmental impact, the emissions, land and water use to make a carton of dairy milk to a carton of plant-based milk, we see drastic comparisons. Perhaps some of you are thinking, but what about the farmers? They're going to have no jobs, they won't be able to provide for their families. In no way whatsoever are animal rights activists trying to put farmers out of their jobs. We don't hate farmers. We know that through generations before them, farming is embedded within their culture and the tradition. What we want is an end to animal slavery, exploitation and slaughter. We actually encourage farmers to make the transition to plant agriculture where the market has taken a big rise in veganism. Farmers all across the world are and have been taking new steps in making that shift. Governments can help support farmers making that transition rather than subsidising and bailing them out. They can help support an industry which doesn't rely on workers at slaughterhouses suffering with PTSD and other severe mental health disorders due to the horrific nature of their jobs. Throughout this whole pandemic, slaughterhouse workers have still been working away in the places which have one of the highest breeding grounds for diseases just like COVID-19. But let me ask you, what would be your best setup, if you had it your way? That we just carry on the way it is? There would be no question about it if this was happening to our pet dogs and our pet cats. But why is this different? Now, I really urge everybody who is watching this video to see if there is any, hypocrisy or conflict in one saying I'm against animal cruelty, but yet I still eat animals. Thank you very much for watching my video, and I'll see you soon for the next one.